Let's call our meeting to order, and I'll ask the treasurer to call the roll.
Ms. Adair? Present. President Baker?
Yes, I'm
Mr.
present.
Brown? Here. Vice President Cole?
Yes, here.
Ms. Gibbs?
Here.
Mr. Ragland?
Here.
Ms. Reyes?
Here.
You have a quorum, Mr. President.
Thank you, Mr. Treasurer. I would like to ask students from Sherwood Middle School to come to the podium to lead us in the Pledge of Allegiance. And if your teacher would like to lead you up, maybe you won't feel so shy. Come on up, students. They are from the Sherwood Middle School mock trial team. Please be upstanding. You may begin when you're ready.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you. You may be seated. And we will hear more from the Sherwood Middle School mock trial team shortly. Colleagues, if you don't mind, I'll take just a minute to read through the agenda, just so we all know the work before us. We do have a few board recognitions this evening, after which we do not have anyone signed up to provide public testimony this evening, so we will not hear any public comment. We will then hear from our direct reports. Each of them will offer a report to the board. We will then take up our consent agenda, after which we will hear board announcements and points of pride. So is there a motion that we adopt the agenda as presented?
So moved.
Moved and seconded. Mr. Treasurer?
Ms. Adair? Yes. President Baker?
Yes.
Mr. Brown?
Yes.
Vice President Cole?
Yes.
Ms. Gibbs?
Yes.
Mr. Ragland?
Yes.
Ms. Reyes?
Yes.
Motion carried.
Thank you, Mr. Treasurer. I'd like to just take a moment and recognize that Saturday was Armed Forces Day. And so if there are any active military or veterans in the room, please stand if you can and be recognized. Veterans or active, raise your hand. Thank you for your service then and your continued service today. We appreciate it. All right, our next item of business under board recognition, item 3.1, is a resolution recognizing International Internal Audit Awareness Month. I'm going to ask Internal Auditor Smith and her staff to come to the podium so that you can be recognized. Columbus City Schools is one of 3 school districts out of over 600 in the state of Ohio to have a dedicated in-house, world-class internal audit department. Our internal audit team is led, of course, by our Chief Audit Executive, Internal Auditor Carolyn Smith. She is a part of the administrative leadership team with the superintendent and the treasurer, and she's one of the 3 people who work for the district who report directly to the board. With this resolution, we will honor the work of Internal Auditor Smith and her team, and I'm going to call on the Vice President who chairs Audit and Accountability to read the resolution.
Thank you, Mr. President. Thank you for the honor. Whereas, through independent and objective evaluation, internal auditors help business, organizations, and governmental agencies accomplish their goals and objectives with integrity and transparency. And whereas internal auditors have the expertise necessary to ensure a high level of efficiency, ethics, and overall organizational excellence, and they play key roles in individual and collective success by ensuring accountability, assessing compliance with established policies and regulations, emphasizing efficient business practices, and facilitating effective management. And whereas public officials, government managers, and private citizens want and need to know not only whether government funds are handled properly and in compliance with laws and regulations, but also whether public programs are achieving the purposes for which they were authorized and funded, and whether they are doing so effectively, efficiently, and equitably. I will go to the last whereas. Whereas Internal Audit Awareness Month focuses attention on the individual assistance that internal auditors provide organizations in evaluating risks and opportunities and ensuring efficiency and effectiveness. Now, therefore, it be resolved that the board that the Columbus City Schools Board of Education does hereby proclaim May 2019 as Internal Audit Awareness Month.
That is a motion, and is there a second?
Second.
Moved and seconded. Mr. Treasurer?
President Baker,
Yes.
Mr. Brown,
Yes.
Vice President Cole,
Yes.
Ms. Gibbs,
Yes.
Mr. Ragland,
Yes.
Ms. Reyes,
Yes.
Ms. Adair. Motion carried.
Thank you, Mr. Treasurer. Madam Internal Auditor, would you like to share a few words?
Thank you, President Baker and Vice President Cole, and members of the board for this honor. It's been really nice being acknowledged by my coworkers. I've had people come up and say, we didn't know there was just 3 internal audit shops in the whole, school district network in Ohio. And then I've had some people give me recommendations for efficiencies to look into. So I think if our goal was awareness, we have achieved that, and with this recognition by the board, it'll go just that much farther. So, and I have a wonderful team. It's not just me. I have a wonderful team back here who make it all possible.
Or have them say their names?
Say your names.
Terry Burchak,
Kevin O'Connor.
Dion Brown. Kevin Sanskowski.
Thank you
They're
very
acting a
much.
lot shyer than what they really are.
Yes. Yes. I see them at the Audit and Accountability Committee meetings, so I know they're not shy. Colleagues, any comments you might like to share? Board Member Adair.
I have said this before, but having you here as part of this team is an essential function that is important to our district, holistically, and to the academic success of our children. And you are here to ensure that we are doing what we need to do to stay compliant on the business side of things. And us having you here shows that we are being transparent and serious about taking this and making sure that we are holding ourselves accountable. So I want to thank you and your team, because what you do is vital. And I appreciate it, being someone who does compliance. And I know how hard you work. So thank you all very much.
Thank you.
Mr. Ragland.
I'd like to echo the comments of my colleague. Thank you, Auditor Smith, for all of the work that you have done. I have always considered you one of the unsung heroes of this district, and I'm just very proud of the work that you and your staff and your team continue to do. Thank you for all of your dedicated work for this district throughout all the years that you've been here. Congratulations on this honor.
Thank you.
Board Member Gibbs.
Well, I was going to yield, but clearly, clearly I've been a fan from day one, and I too share with Board Member Adair about the critical and the absolute integral part that your shop plays in the success of each student being highly educated and prepared for leadership and service. That comes not just from people that are in front of them, but making sure the systems that support them are strong, transparent, and efficient. And you do all of those things. You are no longer unsung with this recognition, but you are always valued and appreciated. And I hope you know that from your board. We are very proud you are only one of 3. It makes you unique and special, and your work that much more of a trailblazer. So congratulations to you and your team.
Thank you.
Vice President Cole.
I thank you, Mr. President. I just want to say that I most appreciate the fact that I've had the opportunity to work fairly closely with you over the years. I've seen the glass ceilings that you've had the opportunity to break. You played a significant role in helping steer this district in the right path in risk management, helping to steer this district in the right path with our compliance keepers, the Auditor of State, and you were awarded for that work. So I just thank you for the many things that you've accomplished and the many things you will continue to do. Not just you, but also your stellar staff as well. I would be remiss if I didn't shout out them as well, because they do an awesome job. Thank you all.
Thank you.
Thank you. And the importance that this board places on the Office of Internal Audit should be clear to everyone, in that you are a direct report to the Board of Education. So transparent government, especially in these times, is critically important, and you help to ensure that. So again, thank you very much on behalf of the board and Would you like to come up front, all 5 of you, and take a photo with the board, please?
Yes,
And let's give
thank
them a
you.
round of applause. Thank you very much. Thank you, Mr. Vice President, for your leadership of the Audit and Accountability Committee. We appreciate that.
Thank you, sir.
And thanks again to the entire Office of Internal Audit staff. We appreciate your work. We know how hard that you work. You're a small but mighty team, and we appreciate it. Let's move on to recognition of Sherwood Middle School students' mock trial competition. So tonight, we are recognizing the Sherwood Middle School mock trial team led by 6th grade teacher Matt Burkle. He works with a team of legal advisors that include the Honorable Judge Kim Brown, Attorney Terrence Scott, and Attorney Matt Stewart to prepare our students for the competitions. Mr. Burkle, please come on up to the podium to tell us about the team's achievements and to introduce everyone who's here with you tonight. Good evening.
President Baker, Vice President Cole, members of the board, thank you for giving us an opportunity for recognition. I'm Sheila Evans. I'm the proud principal, Sherwood Middle School. We are thrilled about our mock trial team. All of them are here this evening, as well as some of their parents as support, but I'm going to allow Mr. Burkow to speak on behalf of the team.
Superintendent Dixon, Dr. Stanford, Mr. Baker, and members of the board, I'd like to thank you for inviting Sherwood Middle School down here for this meeting and for this well-deserved recognition. This is my 12th year coaching middle school mock trial in Columbus City Schools, and I'm very happy and proud to be these students' teacher as well as coach. We were one of a handful of Columbus City schools that were at the Supreme Court. But these students did not disappoint in representing your district and their families and our school at the highest level, at the superior level. So if I may, I'd like to introduce the members of the team, starting with the 8th graders. We have Asia Smith, an 8th grader. This is her 2nd year on the team, and this year she was a prosecution attorney. And the next 8th grader is Devontae Courtney. This is his 1st year on the team, and he was a defense attorney and had a powerful voice. That's what all these students have to try out for the team in October. And when he tried out, we knew right away that he had a commanding voice. He needed to be on the team. And of course, Asia commanded the room like dynamite. She was a firecracker. We knew we have to have her. Next is Nevaeh Burks, 8th grader. This was her 1st year on the team, and she took home an award for Outstanding Witness for the Prosecution Award. So she won Outstanding Witness. Next is Romarice Masson, 8th grader. This is her 3rd year on the team. She was a 6th grader. She came back in 7th grade, and she returned this year, so she must have liked it. And we're so proud of Romarice because this was her year to take home an Outstanding Witness Award after 3 years. And we're going to miss her. We're going to miss all of them. And finally is Regis Dickerson, 8th grader. He was on the team in 6th grade. He returned this year in 8th grade. And he's the first student in my entire career coaching mock trial who played 2 roles. We had a student who left the team months ago and kind of left us in a lurch. Like, what are we going to do? He was a witness. Regis stepped up and said, I'll play his role. So he was a witness not only for the defense, prosecution in the morning, but then at the lunch break, he did a quick change and became a witness in the afternoon trial. And I've never had that happen. But way to take one for the team. He did it, and he did outstanding. So those are our 8th graders. If you could maybe hear a clap. Next are my 7th graders, so they better be back next year. And they are Janela Sellers, who this was her first year on the mock trial team, and Nija Short. This is her 2nd year. Last year, she was a 6th grader. She played a witness. This year, we made her an attorney, and she won Outstanding Attorney for the defense. And last are my 6th graders. The rigor that these kids go through, I've told them numerous times in practice, they're doing more than many average students walking around on a daily basis at the school in their everyday classes. These kids are learning the law, litigation, jurisprudence. They're learning everything about not only digesting and analyzing the book, because the book changes every year. This year was Roll of Thunder, Hear My Cry by Mildred Taylor. So they are going through a lot, and these are just 6th graders, so I'm proud of them. We have Layla Harris right behind me, and she took home the Outstanding Attorney Award as a 6th grader. Shay Groves, he was a witness for the defense. Nikila Short, our bailiff and timekeeper, 6th grader. Am I leaving out any other 6th graders? I think I've hit all the students. So that's the team. We want to thank you.
Colleagues, we'll ask them all up for a picture in a moment, but does anybody have any questions or comments? You know, before he ran for higher office and was elected to the school board, Mr. Brown was the Chief Justice of the Ohio Supreme Court. So, Mr. Brown, would you like to share any comments?
Thank you. Even better than having served as Chief Justice is this office, more important in every way. But I also, through a law practice that's now going on 40 years, I've been involved on and off for most years with OCLRE and with mock trial. And I love the program. I participated as a coach. I participated as a judge for most of those years. I participated as a father. My older daughter, who is now a lawyer, served her high school at state competition in mock trial. So to all of you, and I know I got a chance to talk with some of you earlier, congratulations. And I'm happy to hear that some of you are interested in looking at careers in law. At least one of you was thinking that you might want to go straight into judging like Judge Brown rather than the law school and lawyer route first. It's probably not going to work, but you know, just pay attention, look at opportunities. Opportunities will come along to you, and be willing to step up. And you know, just as one of you did to fill a slot on the team, there will be things that appear to you, and be willing to take a risk and step up and do it. And that's especially true with law. Doesn't matter what you study in college, doesn't matter what you study in high school. Just do the work, develop good habits, learn to read and learn to write. Those are very, very important, and you'll do great. So keep up the good work.
I'd like to, I almost forgot, I'd like to publicly recognize and thank our stellar legal team. I couldn't have done this without our legal advisors, and I've been with them for years. Attorney Terrence Scott, and I'd like him to stand up and at least get a round of applause for his work. And as well as the Honorable Judge Kim Brown. These are part of my legal team. And where I go, they go, so no one's allowed to steal them. And we are missing Mr. Stewart. Matt Stewart is attorney Matt Stewart. We have a power of 3 on our legal advisors. So we're very blessed that we have them. And really, these are the winners in it all, because they learn from top-notch coaching like that. So thank you.
Very good. I'm going to turn to our other attorney on the board. That's Board Member Adair.
Heart so full, and I want to congratulate you because I know how hard you all have worked to be here today. I, too, was a longtime coach of mock trial. I coached the high school team at Centennial for about 10 years, and 1 year I did middle school, 1 year I did middle school at Ridgeview. And I know, and I was a legal advisor, so thank you, legal advisors, and I want to, put a plug out there to my fellow lawyers that you can come in too, just like these wonderful professionals, and adopt a school and adopt a team and have a teacher and work with students to teach them real world skills. So a lot of people think, oh, you guys just get up there and pretend to be lawyers. You guys know it's much more than that, isn't it? I mean, in middle school, they're analyzing literature and doing that within the context of a case. And they're learning, just like law students, you're learning trial techniques. You're learning about the right way to make an objection. But you're also learning how to be a team, and that's most important. Every role on the team is so important. And those of you that were the witnesses, those are critical, because if you don't embody that character, it falls apart, right? And some of you are wonderful at that. And so students that are not only interested in the law, but maybe are pursuing acting or literature or philosophy, mock trial really has something for everyone. And I want to give a shout out to the timekeeper bailiff, because that role is essential. You have to have it by the rules. And it is essential because she keeps everybody on track. And so working as a team, coming up with your trial philosophy, working with the outside legal and your teacher, I know. I spent years doing it. I know the amount of time. I know how much hard work. And I am so proud of you, because I also now know how hard it was for our kids to advance. And so I am so, so, so proud of you all for your accomplishment, and the rest of the teams that made it to the Supreme Court in the middle school. And I think we had some further advance in the high school as well. But again, looking for more community members to come in and help the academic success of our kids, just like these wonderful students here. So thank you all, and I hope to see some of you as lawyers someday too.
Board Member Reyes.
So I also want to congratulate you. Now, I don't play a lawyer here, but my mother always told me that I should have been a lawyer when I was younger and negotiating, trying to get out of trouble. Maybe someday. The only thing I wanted to say is, so I work for a nonprofit organization. So from the nonprofit standpoint, we work with a lot of people who cannot afford to pay for a lawyer, and also with a lot of people that speak other languages other than English. So for those of you who are interested in pursuing any sort of other career, I would encourage you to possibly learn a second language, because I will tell you there is a deep need for multilingual lawyers in this community. So I just wanted to throw that plug in there. And if you ever want to see or hear some of our lawyers, I'll connect with your teacher. They actually are at our center every week. But again, congratulations. And Judge Kim Brown, I have to say, kudos, thank you very much for assisting and the other attorneys. It's just a wonderful, wonderful, wonderful experience for our kids to go through.
Thank you. Colleagues, any other comments?
We all proud of you. We're beaming, we're proud, we're ready for the photo.
Schoolers, that's a very provocative and difficult book too. So I know they learned
Yes.
a lot during this process. So we are incredibly proud. Why don't you all come on up? We'll take a photograph. No.
No, we should go back there. They're taller than me. Exactly.
Extremely humble. Our teams go into this competition every year, and we absolutely dominate. Okay, so when we go in there, teams are shaking in their boots, and I will say it has happened a couple of times that we've made kids cry on cross-examination. So that's this team right here.
Now, I almost forgot, are there any parents here from Sherwood? Any parents or any other Sherwood staff? Please stand and be recognized. Thank you. And thank you, Principal, also for taking the time to be here. Thank you. Amazing students. So, thank you, colleagues. Let's move on then. We do not have any speakers this evening, so we won't have any public testimony. So we'll move on to our superintendent's report. Madam Superintendent, the floor is yours.
Okay, President Baker and members of the board. Before I begin my report, let me share one of the questions I frequently get asked by Board President Baker is, how many days has it been? So to update the calendar, I would like everyone to know I'm in the last 30 days of the first 100 days. So it's coming around soon. So it's amazing how it's been 70 days or so it's going by pretty fast. So by the number that most of our kids and staff are more interested in is 6 days, right? We have 6 days left into summer break. However, the number I hope that we get more excited is about the 5 days into our first graduation ceremony. So next Wednesday night for our graduates at Columbus Scioto. That begins 19 total graduation ceremonies stretched over 4 days at 5 different locations. And each one will be a true celebration. The message of celebration ties right into my first topic tonight, our end-year recognitions. I had another one of my firsts as a superintendent in Columbus, handing out my first 8 diplomas to the 8 young people who were part of our Project Search program. It's designed for our special needs students who choose to remain with our district an extra year after completing their academic studies, so they can receive additional training and focus on work skills. The goal of Project Search is to have 100% employment for every student after the program. So they are provided real-life work experience combined with the life skills needed to transition into competitive employment in the community and to be successful. Those 8 young people, with inspiration from teachers, staff, and community partners at Life Care Alliance, took it upon themselves to ensure that they had a successful post-secondary outcome ready to find success in the workplace. Another end-of-year highlight is the High School Service Above Self Fair. Thank you, President Baker and board members Ragland and Brown, for joining me in recognizing our students during the 16th Annual High School Service Above Self Fair supported by the Columbus Rotary. Independence High School senior Shayana Hinckley Moore won a $25,000 Make a Difference scholarship. Yeah. 7 additional $2,500 scholarships were awarded to seniors from Centennial, Afrocentric, Cos, Eastmore, Marion Franklin, West, and Whetstone High Schools. As you know, the Rotary has supported students in Columbus City Schools through various activities for more than 50 years. Another longtime supporter is the National Coalition of 100 Black Women and its Central Ohio chapter. They recently held their 6th annual Trailblazer and Scholarship Awards event. Thank you, Board Member Gibbs, for attending. Graduating seniors from Centennial and Independence each received $5,000 scholarships and students from our downtown high school provided security for the event, which promotes leadership, gender equity, and empowerment. Since we're talking about scholarships and helping our students who want to go to college and be able to afford to get there, our academic team reports that as of last week, the class of 2019 has earned more than $55 million in scholarships, grants, and need-based awards. Let me repeat that number because it's a number that we should be celebrated, $55 million, and we know there will be more awards coming over the next few weeks. One more end-of-the-year celebration I attended was Whetstone's annual Academic Hall of Fame ceremony. This event honored more than 150 students, all who had a passion for learning, the perseverance to never give up, and more importantly, a 3.5 or better GPA for the last 3 quarters. It was a great turnout for our students, staff, and families. So let me move on to another topic and then showcase how students learn in other ways outside the classroom. I was so impressed with the performances last week by students who participated in Momentum. Weeks of the in-school practice and learning culminated into a series of performances celebrating the Harlem Renaissance. I had a chance to go backstage and talk with some of the students who were in the show. As you know, Momentum is a program of dance, music, and performance that touches students at more than a dozen of our elementary and middle schools. And since its founding 16 years ago, they've served more than 10,000 students. The performances last week were high energy, well-attended, and good examples of kinesthetic learning that comes from movement and dance. Another unique learning environment is on the chessboard. Last week was the 23rd annual Coleman Rookie Chess Tournament held at the Columbus Museum of Art. The tournament was made possible by the generous funding of the Coleman family and comes to life each year with the support of Francis Nolan and Kaylee Mortensen, who direct the tournament. NBC4 News anchor Mac Barnes and City Council President Pro Tem Elizabeth Brown presented the awards. One of the great lessons in chess, and one that carries beyond the game board, is that things don't always go according to plan. There are many times in the game where your plans are foiled and you need a creative solution to stay in the game. But if you can remain flexible, ready to change your strategy, the better you'll be able to handle any situation thrown your way. And that is a skill that our students can use in life over and over again. Moving to my next topic, the inspiration behind our teachers. Last night, teachers from across the district were awarded Dream Grants for next school year. The Bob Weiler family has been providing Teacher Dream Grants for 13 years, with awards ranging from $500 to $5,000 to pay for the resources to implement innovative class projects, increase student achievement, improve school climate, or promote social justice. I personally want to thank the Weiler family for their generous support of this inspiration for our teachers and for repeatedly supporting me in this first 100 days. Last week, we also celebrated our teachers who have been inspiring the longest at the 43rd Annual CEA Awards and Retirement Banquet. This second grader from Berwick Elementary delivered the Pledge of Allegiance flawlessly. This annual event by our partners at CEA is a great time to honor and recognize those retiring teachers who have truly made a difference in the lives of students. I truly believe our teachers are the lifeblood of our organization and are one of our most valuable resources. Because we value our teachers, I also think it's important to hear from them directly on what works best in the classroom. At Woodcrest Elementary this past week, I spent time meeting with our district literacy coaches. Over the past several years, I know that our academic teams have put an intense focus on boosting student reading skills. Yet we're still not where we need to be, and I'm hopeful that additional alignment district-wide with all of our partners will be the first step in truly achieving the reading proficiencies we need to see. While I was at Woodcrest, I also took a brief tour
So here's a quick shout out to my tour guides. Moving to my next topic, one that repeats each report because it's so important, and that's the efforts of strengthening our partnerships. Thank you, President Baker and Treasurer Bahoric, for including me on your visit to Columbus City Council last night. I expect both of you will want to comment after my report about our testimony last night. For me, the one takeaway is that we all believe in a strong, long-term economic development policy that fights to keep and grow jobs within Columbus. Because when jobs and investments stay and grow here in Columbus, then our entire community benefits, and the students of Columbus City Schools benefit. And whether it's the income tax sharing, increased property tax valuations, or investments in the programs and services aimed directly at our students and our families, these dollars we receive from the city do help sustain our schools and achieve our mission. And that's to provide our students with every opportunity they deserve. Other partnerships meeting this week have included conversations with leaders at Junior Achievement and representatives of the Baptist Ministerial Alliance. Tomorrow night, our partners from Westside Urban Ministry, a group of 6 local Presbyterian churches, will be hosting our Westside Community Exchange. We will meet at Hogue Memorial Presbyterian Church, which is on Broad Street, starting at 5:30 p.m. Westside Urban Ministries has been a supportive partner with Westside School, and I hope we have a good turnout of families and community members for this community exchange. We have one more community meeting scheduled after this one, and I would defer to Board Member Gibbs to share that information later. So as I wrap up this part of my report, I have to include one of my favorite activities during the first 100 days, my opportunities to read with our students. I was invited to be a guest reader in Ms. Buchanan's class, kindergarten class at Gables Elementary, where I read Pete the Cat and the New Guy. The students were so excited, even reading along with me at times. And after the story, the students shared their thoughts about meeting someone new and making friends. The class is also counting down the alphabet towards the last day of school. On that day, the letter P, so students dress as prince and princesses for the day. And I can't wait to see the zebras and the zookeepers coming up next week. So before I end my report tonight, I also want to devote some time, some additional time for sharing a little insight on a series of organizational and staff changes that will begin to roll out over the next few days of the school year. And some of these changes are reflected in the personnel legislation on your agenda, and others have come out as positions are posted by our human resources team. First, starting next school year, we will look to restructure the way we currently divide our schools into divisions. So instead of 5 divisions that as we currently have, we have 3 elementaries, a single middle school, and a single high school. I would like to see 6 divisions, generally segmented by geographic region, and they will be aligned from K through 12. These divisions will have between 17 and 20 schools each and will cover the full pre-K to 12 experience. Our current executive directors who've overseen those divisions have done incredible work, and much have been asked of them. A division of that size with that many students and schools to oversee is often larger than all of the schools in most districts in Ohio. That's why I want to see a change to have area superintendents oversee these new divisions. We've begun posting these 6 new positions, and we'll be filling them over the next month or so. Second, you've heard me repeatedly stress the importance of partnerships and engagement of our community stakeholders. I've shared before my intent to have a chief of engagement. Engagement is an avenue to increase student achievement, and this position will allow a strategic focus on the alignment of our partnerships. Because of this importance of this role, I have asked Alicia Gillison to become our new Chief of Engagement because she has the experience and the skills at building strong partnerships. She will be intentional about setting expectations with our partners and reinforcing the need to have perfect alignment between our goals and our outcomes so that academic achievement is in the forefront. So thank you, Alicia, for saying yes to take this role. I also want to, thank you. Yes. I also want to take a moment to thank Maria Stockert, who has well served the district as our Chief of Staff. She has been the go-to person for so many in the district and has always put our students and staff first while taking a leading role in several initiatives and efforts coming out of the superintendent's office. Maria has chosen to return to what she has told me was perhaps her favorite job in the district as one of our building principals. So thank you, Maria, again, for putting our students and their success first on your list. A third change I want to change, and this is one is also at the building level and directly tied to students. In my conversations with all of our principals, I repeatedly heard a need for more administrative support, especially at our elementary level. Right now, elementary principals are typically the only administrator in the building, no matter how many students that they have. So starting next year, with the hope of creating a little more equity when it comes to building administrators, for any elementary building with more than 450 students, there would be at least one additional administrator. That would be either an assistant principal or a leadership intern. We are able to make these changes by shifting some of our current administrators' positions, so at this moment there are no additional positions being added. Over the next several weeks, we'll begin rolling out those new building assignments. And as I come to the end of my first 100 days, I will begin to roll out more of organizational changes that I think our district needs as we focus on improving the outcomes of our efforts. So stay tuned, and I will update you accordingly. And with that, President Baker, I conclude my report.
Thank you, Madam Superintendent. Colleagues, questions or comments related to the superintendent's report this evening? Thank you very much, Madam Superintendent. And let's move on then to our internal auditor. And so, Madam Internal Auditor, have you a report for the board this evening?
Have a report this evening. We did not have a out-of-committee meeting this month.
Thank you very much, and congratulations again, and thanks for all you do on behalf of the district. Mr. Treasurer, have you a report for the board?
I do now.
There's your clicker.
Thank you, President Baker. This evening, I'm here to present the monthly financial report for April. This report was reviewed by FAC last Wednesday. As has been the case in quite a few of these reports, revenues year-to-date are running above plan, expenditures below plan. Total revenues came in about $31 million under plan this year due to some timing variances. However, the year-to-date revenues still remain above plan at plus $30 million. Total expenditures, about $2 million under plan for the month, and that increased the favorable variance to about $15 million under plan. Combined, this yields about $45 million more in a cash balance than we had in the original plan. Some quick highlights from that discussion and what's in the April report. On the revenue side, the property tax allocation, that's the homestead and rollback that we get from the state of Ohio, had about an $18 million variance last month. It's resolved itself to $1.6 million this month when the plan and actuals caught up to one another. We had about a 1-month timing difference. Other revenues still remain one of the highlights of our reports with pilots, those payments in lieu of taxes leading the way at about a little over 14 million year-to-date above plan. On the expenditure side, personnel now runs about 11.1 million under for the year, although I did explain to the committee that May is the last of, or the second of 2 3-pay months, and how we laid the plan out ended up being that we underestimated the 3-pay plan months and kind of overestimated the other 10 months. So we expect for the second time for the year an unfavorable variance in the month of May, which will bring this down closer to on plan, but we still expect to run $5-6 million under plan by the end of the year. Charter schools, this line is now beginning to run under plan this month. We've been fairly well on target. The plan actually, being based on prior year experiences, has an uptick for the last couple of months of the year. We don't expect that to happen, and based upon annual data that we're getting from ODE compared to our plan and our appropriations, we expect this to continue to run under plan for May and June. Moving on to specific revenue items, no activity in property taxes this past month. State aid was right on plan for the month at about $833,000 under plan. End of year, we expect this to actually come in about $3 million over plan, so we'll see some favorable variances in the coming months, and you'll see that based upon how the plan was laid out month to month. So expect that to be above plan for the end of the year. Again, other revenues. You can see here that within all the other revenues, what we call other revenues, I guess I could say, about $24 million ahead of plan year to date, 3.7 in Medicaid that we received last, I think it was October. And typically we get one Medicaid reimbursement a year. They give them to us in arrears. There's a calculation that goes on, and we receive it in arrears. And I typically get one a year. But I recently got the documentation that we're actually going to get a second one because they're getting better on their timing. They're catching up. So now we're going to get the 18 reimbursement actually in fiscal 19. So that will bring that 3.7 million favorable variance down to about 1 million when, again, the plan is calling for a payment. We will get a payment that year, but it won't match up exactly. So that'll be about a 1 million favorable variance by the end of the year. In other revenues, we have 6 million in investment income running ahead of plan, and then pilots, as I mentioned to you, are running ahead as well. Just a picture of how things look, pretty typical from last month. We talked about this, 34% in state and 57% in property taxes and 9% in other. Moving on to expenditures, so I've already discussed personnel, but in the area of charter, you can see here, they're now at about 2.5 million under plan, coming in under plan for the month of 1.9 million. And I did say we'll expect that to be 5 to 6 million by the end of the year. Just a picture of overall other expenditures, or all the non-personnel expenditures. Purchase services are running under due to tuition and utilities, as has been the case for the past several months. Again, a picture of the breakdown of our expenditures. Personnel about 66% and charter 22%. Depending upon how the state budget works out and our school funding plan that may be adopted, that picture could dramatically change if they take charters out of being run through us, and then we'll return to a little bit more what I would call normal picture of breakdown of expenditures. But in the spirit of the mock trial, I'll say the jury's still out on whether or not that plan is going to be changed and how it will work. We get into variance analysis, getting a different picture on these variances to focus our attention. Again, you can see here all other revenues literally jump off the page at you as something that we should know and understand and discuss, which we do. Again, other revenues, 14.5 in pilots, 5.6 in investment income, and the 3.7 in Medicaid, explaining that variance. We've taken some of that into consideration and increasing our estimates in other revenues for the forecast, but certainly not all of it. I'm not that too aggressive in this area. You can see here, pilots again, 16.2 with 2 million in the plan. That's a little over 14 million ahead. Let's talk about revenue sharing. And this may be a chance. I didn't know that Dr. Dixon would ask me to say anything about our appearance at City Council last night. But this is the income tax revenue sharing that we get that is required by statute when there are these incentive programs available. A little inside baseball, it's when the wages reach $1 million and then they share 50% of the income tax with us. Typically, it's been about 1.7 million a year. Last evening, the dollar amount is in the 750,000, and we kind of had talked to the Economic Development Department and said, you know, this is a heck of a time to invite me to come over to speak to City Council when the number looks like it's half of what it's been in the past. But the good news is that means that those parcels have come off the abatement, and they're now on the taxable duplicate, generating property tax for the district. And so I promptly asked the Economic Development Director to please provide me with a reconciliation of that number, which he did talk last night a little bit about the amount of money on one particular property, the DSW site out, I think, near the airport, that generated in his numbers about 350% more than what we would have received without the development through the income tax sharing alone. So we work with them, as you all well know. I don't think a week goes by that we're not talking to them, and we'll keep an eye on trying to reconcile some of this. But what that means for the future, it just depends upon how other projects come online, because I have included at least $2 million in revenue sharing in the years going forward. So that was the upshot of our comment, or at least my comments last night. I had most of the numbers to just talk about our experience with income tax sharing. Win-win, I know, is going to come in right around the $2 million estimate. Those bills went out to the participating school districts this month. Hopefully we'll get paid end of May or early part of June. On the expenditure side, you can see that, once again, personnel jumps out because of the dollar amount. I believe that will, as I mentioned, will resolve itself somewhat. Capital outlay is due to a carryover purchase order. The order is something that was ordered in the prior fiscal year that carried forward this year that we did not include in the plan. So all in all, we've got a pretty good handle on what the variances are and what accounts for them. So again, to close out for the April, we are once again up in revenues and under in expenditures. We're running on the favorable side to our plan. So that concludes my report for April, and I'd be glad to answer any questions.
Thank you, Mr. Treasurer. Any questions, colleagues, on the monthly financial report presented by the Treasurer? Thank you, sir.
Thank you.
Very much for your report. Yes, thank you very much. And so next, I'd like to actually call on Dr. Roush to provide a legislative update. As you all know, a lot's been happening at the State House, and it's important that we stay on top of that, as everything they do there relating to education has a major impact on us and our ability to adequately serve our students and staff and families and community partners. So a number of you had asked me about hearing from Dr. Roush related to what's going on. So Dr. Roush, would you please provide the board with the update that you prepared?
Thank you, President Baker, members of the board. It's budget season, and as it's budget season, the bill that sucks up most of the oxygen down at the State House is the biennial appropriations bill. This particular General Assembly, that is House Bill 166. That bill has cleared the Ohio House at this particular point in time. Picked up a number of changes along the way. I'll give you a couple of highlights. First and foremost, in the funding arena, the Cupp-Patterson plan, which has been discussed quite a bit, was not included in the House passed version of the budget. However, some of its study committees trying to identify updating various cost studies for special education, English learners, economically disadvantaged. Those studies were included in the as passed by House version. Most of those studies are to be conducted either by the Joint Education Oversight Committee, the Department of Education, with them kind of depending upon which one's taking the lead, and in some of those, the Auditor of State. Just an important point to note that they're largely being driven by the state at this particular point in time. Cupp-Patterson didn't make it in. There's still some discussion that it might be introduced as standalone legislation. We're in the let's wait and see what happens mode there. But what was included, essentially the governor's wraparound services and the flat funding of the base formula at FY19 levels, those remain. The House did add some extra money in FY21, moving that per pupil amount for those wraparound services from $300 per pupil to $360 per pupil, which I believe was a couple $1 million delta going forward. Also of particular interest, especially on the financial front, is the inclusion of House Bill 75. House Bill 75, it's been so many different things over the years, but this particular iteration for this General Assembly once again gets at the ability for local jurisdictions to challenge property tax valuations where property tax valuations may be in error. It passed out of committee, has not passed the full House, but got tucked into the budget bill for a ride. We'll see what happens at the end of the day with that particular bill. Our treasurer testified against similar legislation last General Assembly. We certainly would urge you to continue to oppose that legislation in this current form as we continue to work through it. In short, it's going to add a great deal more cost to the process, more time as well. For those who are really interested, I can give you the blow-by-blow, but in the interest of time and probably your level of interest, I'll not do that now. Additionally, there are a number of changes to, I think, areas we've all been watching in the academic forefront, the Academic Distress Commission reform being one of those. The as-introduced version included recommendations from the state superintendent. The House removed those and replaced those with House Bill 154, which was its passed version of the version of legislation it passed out of that chamber in April. Essentially, that version of the legislation abolishes existing academic distress commissions and requires districts to put together plans for each of their buildings that have an F. And so that legislation has been introduced in lieu of that. The Senate continues to work on its plan. I would anticipate that this will be an item that will be debated in the conference committee. Additionally, there are some discussions around local report cards. While the Joint Education Oversight Committee has started a series of hearings on the existing report cards, while there's always scuttlebutt that there may be some overhaul in the vein of House Bill 591 from the last General Assembly, which Representative Duffy sponsored, there were some tweaks during House Bill 166. Probably one of those key tweaks would be that it redefines the overall grade. The overall grade would be the local report card score that's either the higher of the performance index score or the overall or the value added score, whichever is greater, and that overall score would then be used for the determination of any penalties, sanctions, repercussions that may come out. The one exception to that is Ed Choice. It would still Ed Choice schools would still be determined kind of using the all content. And though all of those grade components will still be put together for an overall grade, but just it's going to be that PI score or the value-added score will be kind of what governs what happens to schools and districts, if you will. In addition to that, not discussed in the House at all, but has been greatly discussed in the Senate side, graduation requirement reform. When we last left you last year, I feel a little bit like this is a kind of a serial right now. When we last left you, we had taken care of the classes of 19 and 20 through temp law. We had advocated for some updates for the class of 21. Lo and behold, those discussions are going on right now. There are two competing plans. You may have heard of some of those. The first is the State Board of Education's plan that they passed last year. Essentially, it's going to require students meet criteria yet to be determined in 5 learning domains. And I lost my place here as I grab that. But they have to hit those 5 learning domains: English language arts, mathematics, well-rounded content, technology, and leadership and reasoning. That is all yet to be determined. There is another proposal out there that's kind of a coalition, conglomerate, if you will, of the Alliance of High Quality Education, the Fordham Foundation, and Ohio Excels, which is affiliated with the Ohio Business Roundtable. That particular plan It's a variation of the initial plan that kind of the Alliance for High Quality Education had discussed. A student in that plan would need to meet a competency score. That competency score is a yet-to-be-determined score. In lieu of meeting that competency score, they could do that through one of three different ways. There's the College Credit Plus route, which would require a student earn credit in a math course and an English course. There's a Career Tech route, which then has two different layers, and so you have to meet something in the first layer and then something in the second layer. So there's that piece, and then there's kind of a military readiness or military enlistment piece, whereby if a student can show that upon graduation they've been accepted and enlisted in the military, they can show that signed contract, that would count as well. In addition to all of that, and in addition to the fact they still have to meet their minimum credit hours or Carnegie units, they would then have to earn 2 of 11 possible diploma seals, 8 of which are state set, some of which are already in place today, i.e. the State Seal of Biliteracy, the Ohio Means Readiness Job Seal, and then 3 that would be locally determined, such as a Fine Arts Seal. So that would be something that would be set by local guideline. So those 2 proposals are competing right now. I think that the desire is to place that in the budget bill. I do not know where the House stands at this particular point on those proposals. So my guess is this will be yet another item that will be ripe for discussion during conference committee. I also wanted to bring up that even though the budget is going on, there is other legislation moving. Actually, last week we had an interested party meeting on one such bill, House Bill 239, which is a reduction of required state testing. Vice President Cole and President Baker joined in that conversation as well. I thought it was a very productive conversation. Thank you both for joining and participating. In short, reduces the testing from 7 end-of-course exams down to 3. It would require after the enactment of the legislation, the districts put together a study committee, if you will, to examine all the other district-wide testing and make recommendations to the Board of Education. There are specified items that would need to be covered by that committee and specified membership. It was good to hear from the sponsors and have a better sense of where they're going with that and what their desire is. So I thought it was, again, a very productive meeting. Just last week, the House introduced 2 new pieces of legislation, House Bill 2 and House Bill 4. Due to the art of placeholders, which is why we get the actual language for House Bill 2 and House Bill 4. These are priority legislation for the House of Representatives. House Bill 2 has to do with micro-credentialing. House Bill 4 has to do with who's approving credentialing. So both of those certainly will tie into graduation requirements in one way, shape, or form, since both graduation proposals deal with credentialing as part of that. Will certainly have an impact on our career technical education programs, so we'll be monitoring those as well. We're still reviewing those pieces of legislation as they've only been out for a very short period of time. Also wanted to briefly give you an update. Not only are things going on in Columbus, but also in Washington, D.C. Discussions continue around infrastructure at this particular point in time. We'll continue to have conversations with our congressional delegation, continuing the conversations we had last March when we were there, when I was there with the superintendent, the president and vice president, urging Congress to certainly adopt, as they work on infrastructure, not forget school infrastructure being a very important part of that discussion. It's not just roads and bridges, but it's our schools and really where we're making the greatest investment. In addition to that, there was a meeting today. I've not yet had a chance to see what reports are on how that went between congressional leadership and members of the key White House staff, essentially looking at the various fiscal cliffs that we're anticipating this particular fall. In September, we kind of hit the debt ceiling in March. We're using extraordinary measures between now and then. If Congress does not act and find a solution to that debt ceiling, raising that debt ceiling cap, there is the possibility that we would default on our debt as a nation. In addition to that, we're looking at budget caps. So through the various pieces of legislation, the caps have been raised in recent years. If they don't come to another agreement, sequestration will go ahead and take effect, and we're going to see some rather dramatic cuts in programming. Both defense and non-defense spending, particularly in the education areas, will take quite the haircut in those areas if agreement is not met. What's good is that they actually met today to have that conversation. We're in the end of May. We're not in the first week of September, so we seem to be at least doing something with a little bit of cushion there. But there's a lot of work to do and certainly a lot to be seen. And with that, President Baker, I will conclude my report.
Thank you, Dr. Roush. Colleagues, are there questions? Board Member Ragland.
Thank you for your report, Dr. Roush. My question is around House Bill 239 and the interested party meeting. What is the process by which the district gets invited to participate in those types of forums?
President Baker, to Board Member Ragland, I almost promoted you and called you Representative Ragland since we're talking legislation here. Typically, that is at the request or the invitation of the members who are the co-sponsors of that legislation, who chair that committee or who hold ranking membership on those committees. One of the co-sponsors of that bill is Representative Erica Crowley, who is one of our local representatives, which is why we were afforded that invitation. Other times, it's the relationships we've built with certain members of both the House and Senate to get invited to those particular meetings.
So are those opportunities made available to each board member to participate, or is that a selective process?
President Baker, to Board Member Ragland, that is at the discretion of the members of the General Assembly.
So the General Assembly decides who from our team participates?
President Baker, to the board member, typically it's been usually just our internal staff. It's usually professional staff that are invited. In this instance, they reached out to some of the board members to invite them as well. So certainly in the future, as we have some of these other opportunities where it makes sense, we're happy to certainly reach out where appropriate.
Other questions or comments related to the legislative update? Yes, Board Member Gibbs.
Thank you for this update. I have a question. Looking at this legislation 239-2 or whatever, it's a lot about the credentialing, and it's a lot about workforce and industry credentials. My question is, who is going to determine the credentialing, and how do we ensure, or how will they create gender and racial representation, as well as representation from district curriculum people when they create this? I'm very concerned. This looks very self-serving in some ways. I am a fan of increased pathways, and I want to have every possible way for students to graduate, but I'm not interested in creating a school to your company pipeline. I'm interested in a school to career pipeline, and you can go anywhere, and the credential will be not just recognized in Ohio, but will it be recognized in Illinois, in Georgia, in California, in France, in Germany? So how will we make sure, or in your discussions about this credential, can you ask about who's on this team, what comprises this team? Do we have multi-state agreements for this team? Are we talking to our statewide association, our national association of boards, of departments of education from each state, so that the credential will mean more than just 43215? Because I like the pathways, but if they can only use it to work for X, Y, and Z company, then we're not really preparing them for a global workforce. We're preparing them for a specific person. And I don't think that serves our students that we're preparing to go into the world very well. So when you get to the heart of this, or as they say, making the sausage, can you make sure we understand the credentialing, who will be on there, how we ensure the diversity, how we ensure we have people from both urban and rural districts on there, because we have very similar challenges, and that the credentialing is based upon something that is portable. My second question, or my second ask in terms of understanding, is not only do we want those credentials to make sense in terms of who puts them together, but if they, in the other legislation are marked, they ask for everyone to have an internship. Do we have the capacity to absorb the thousands of high school seniors that would be required to do it? And do we have the diversity of industries that will give our students a meaningful experience? So if an internship, we require volunteer hours for Columbus City, we get that. But if it becomes a part of a pathway, how do we ensure that each student, and specifically our students, get the high quality internships? And there's only so many people that can fit in a business. There's only so many people that can fit in Nationwide or in some of our Fortune 5 and our largers. So can you ask them or get some type of idea before they put that particular piece on there? Maybe some workforce trends, I don't know. So I don't know how much of it can be absorbed if it becomes this type of, everybody's competing, right? If the whole, all 16 school districts in Franklin County are competing, there's only so many companies in Franklin County. And so I don't know if you can find out what type of workforce data or capacity or saturation we could find out about. I wouldn't want to set them up for failure and they're going for internships, but they're getting less than optimal opportunities.
President Baker, to Board Member Gibbs, I will certainly relay those concerns and ask those questions.
Thank you.
Colleagues, other questions or comments on the legislative update? Mr. Vice President?
Thank you, Mr. President. Thank you, Dr. Roush, for that presentation. I would certainly recommend one of those first stops could possibly be the APPS program with the City of Columbus. So they are working right now, I think, a fairly large cohort of students, many of whom attend Columbus City Schools, have just interviewed with the APPS program and have completed that process and are soon to start employment, I think sometime in June. But that might be a first stop, the APPS program and the HR department for the City of Columbus might be just one of those places that might be able to afford us the information. Just one of them. Thank you.
Thank you.
Ms. Gibbs?
Also, thank you for that. Can you also find out how they are working or how they plan to use our career and technical staff and divisions in our ESCs and our joint vocational school districts? How is career and technical helping to inform just how to operationalize? I love it because, you know, I'm a fan of the Nashville Career Academies. I think you have to get students started. And as Dr. Dixon said at the Teachers Grant, exposure increases expectations. You know, they can help you meet them. So we are for having career paths, but we also want to make sure they're putting a thought into it and that we can understand it's something that's usable in the next biennium. They just don't come up with something else and scrap it, and then we're left with students pursuing one pathway and have to play cleanup to transfer them to something else. But career and technical experts in our team should definitely be there as well. Or they could just let us know how they are informing the decision in the work.
President Baker and Board Member Gibbs, excellent observations again. We certainly will grab those. Thank you.
Thank you, Dr. Roush. Thank you, President Baker.
Thank you, ma'am. Thank you, Dr. Roush, very much. All right, colleagues, let's move on to our consent agenda. Is there a motion that we adopt it as it has been presented?
So moved.
Moved and seconded. Colleagues, questions on any piece of legislation contained within the consent agenda this evening? Board Member Gibbs.
The Wexner Center, Mount Vernon AME, PACT, and the 7-Step Foundation for all of your support of Champion Middle School and their 8th grade trip to Washington, D.C. Thank you. We thank all of our community members to help support our students in their experiential learning.
Thank you for pointing that out, Ms. Gibbs. Is there anyone in the audience from OSU Wexner Medical Center or Mount Vernon AME or PACT or the 7-Step Foundation? If so, please stand or raise your hand. I believe I saw T Street. T Street was
She
here.
just stepped
So
out.
special thanks to all of those who are supporting that trip. Colleagues, any other questions or comments this evening on the consent agenda? Seeing none, Mr. Treasurer?
Mr. Brown?
Yes.
Vice President Cole?
Yes.
Ms. Gibbs? Mr. Ragland?
Yes.
Ms. Reyes? Ms. Adair? President Baker?
Yes.
That motion carried.
Thank you. Colleagues, let's move into announcements. Any announcements or points of pride you'd like to share this evening? Board Member Ragland, I think you were first.
To piggyback off my colleague's comments about Champion, I visited Champion the other day. I had the pleasure of meeting with Ms. Bland and the Bold Leadership Program of young men of 6th, 7th, and 8th grade at Champion. I had a wonderful experience with Ms. Bland, her staff, and students at Champion, and I just want to give them my voice of support and thank them for an outstanding visit to their school and just a wonderful learning environment for the young people at Champion. So congratulations to our academic team, who I know has spent a lot of time working with that Champion team. It was just a great experience for me that day, and I was just thrilled to pieces to see the learning that was going on at Champion Middle School. Thank you.
Thank you, Board Member Eglin, and I'll have you know, I attended Champion Middle School in the 8th grade. Now, that's the old one. It's gone now. It's not the new one, obviously, but thank you. Mr. Varner, did you have some photos ready for us to run? So, Ms. Gibbs attended the mural event. This is the Roots and Wings mural dedication at Indianola, informal K-8, an outstanding event. Ms. Gibbs, you want to talk at all about the event that day?
So yesterday, they unveiled a mural from April Tsunami and Queen Brooks, and both Board Member Brown and I were there to see them unveil the mural and to have an arts program inside of the building. It was, that entire atrium was filled and all the way up the steps, would you say, Board Member Brown? And then as they kept the party going on the inside with a tap dance routine, artwork, and just a tremendous display of community engagement and student talent. And so it was a very amazing opportunity. Actually, thank you to the media for covering that event, covering the work that all the students did, and all the kids were running around showing their parents which part of the mural they did. Mr. Philip Calloway, who is Vice President of the PTA, is in the audience today, and his beautiful daughter showed us her little part that she colored in the mural. And so we thank you, and Mr. Calloway, you share with the staff and the incredible art teacher and the people who pulled it together. Our sincere thanks, and we were just blown away, wouldn't you say, Board Member Brown? Just tremendous.
Mr. Brown, any comments?
Yes, I too enjoyed that presentation very much. The artists were wonderful, and they spent a lot of time working with the students. My wife, Marilyn, joined me at that, in part because of her interest in the arts and arts education. And that was just, one part, and especially this past week and past month, that there has been almost an explosion of arts that involves our kids. The violin coming here was part of that. Just, an awesome opportunity for a 500-year-old instrument. And to then segue from that into all the other learning experiences that can take place. Momentum, and I mentioned that, and I urged everybody to get to that, and it was incredible, all the energy, all of the movement by so many of our kids, such a huge number of kids participating. There's lots of interest by the arts community in doing more with us and working with us on arts education issues. I've talked to a number of people recently. So I think that the future looks good for partnering more and more with all of the wonderful arts organizations that we have in this community. Those experiences just in the past week or two have highlighted that.
Thank you. What's next? All right, this is Countdown to Kindergarten, and this was another awesome event. So a couple hundred of my newest, closest friends all starting kindergarten this coming year. We had a great time, and just awesome team there. Anybody here who helped to participate or guide Countdown to Kindergarten? Dr. Klein, why don't you come up and just say a few quick words, because this was a big event. These kids had a great time, and their parents too.
Board President Baker, it was an exciting event because it was a culmination of many, many different departments coming together. And the coolest comment I heard from a student leaving was, "Do I really have to go home? I need to start kindergarten right now." And that was an exciting time. So thanks to every department that gave and that put forth the effort, because the parents and the students were thrilled and very excited to start their education with Columbus City Schools.
Thank you, Dr. Klein. Thank the entire team, everybody who was involved. We already talked about the Teacher's Dream Grant. And then let's move on to Children's Day. Before we do that, I just want to thank the Weiler family, Teacher's Dream Grant. I just want to thank the Weiler family for their ongoing commitment. Bob Weiler, a former member of this board, an icon in this community, his entire family, just amazing what they continue to do for the district. So special thanks and kudos to the Weiler family. And now let's talk about Children's Day. Board Member Reyes, this was amazing.
It was. Thank you, Mr. Baker. We're still collecting all the pictures. We'll give more information as they come. And we had a lot of competition from our principals. I was able to attend all but one. So we had 6 sites. So thank you, Columbus Police Department, for not seeing my vehicle as I went across town. I started bright and early, about 9:30, just down the street from my house. But and actually, the picture that you just saw, that young lady is a composer, a violinist from Yorktown, I believe, Yorktown Middle School. She created and composed her own music, and then her compadres there were doing a skit right after her. So it was amazing. Kids of all ages, our grounds folks, our labor folks were out there, our teachers. I will tell you that it was packed. It was a beautiful day. We had bouncy houses. Some of our teachers were really upset because some other folks took bouncy houses. That's Dominion Middle School. Our kids were creating gifts for their moms. And then, as you can see, we have a diversity of all of our district there. But I will have to say, see East High School, they had the Incredibles. Not only did they have the Incredibles, they had a petting zoo. Not only did they have a petting zoo, they had a llama. And they had horses, so you could have pony rides. They had a 3-on-3 tournament. They had a radio station. They had, they highlighted their STEM. They had they had all sorts of partners. The fire truck was out there. We had a little kid, I mean, he walked out there and he literally just ran away from his parents and just darted to the fire truck. Hot dogs were cooking right behind those ears. It was an amazing day. And Ms. Gillison will tell you our principals were challenging each other. And I got a text late in the evening by one of our partners and asked me who won as far as attendance and grandeur. And I would have to give it to East High School. They were packed. She took all, Principal Bland took all of the bouncy houses, I think, in the city of Columbus. Upset a lot of other principals, but I want to thank all the principals, all the schools, all the teachers, all the parents. I think Global had even a cultural exchange language program. They had like 10 different stations, Russian, Spanish, Somali, Arabic, Japanese. I mean, it was amazing. And our kids were the ones, even in some of the booths, they were speaking a different language with other kids and engaging them. So it was just a day full of an opportunity for our kids to show off their talents and our community to be welcome into their school buildings.
High school is that young lady in the middle from?
I don't know. But I'll tell you, I was tired at the end of the day, but I just loved just seeing all our kids just having such a great time, and the parents too, and our teachers went over and beyond, and there was learning. There was, I had to step into some bag and do some vacuum thing. I forget what that was called.
Yeah, I've done it.
And, I mean, there was all sorts of learning throughout. They were writing storybooks. They were creating their own story at Dominion with the Gifted Academy. I mean, they just, our teachers, our principals just took it to the next level this year.
Thank you for your leadership at the committee level on this, Board Member Reyes. The event has really grown over the years, and as always, our teachers and administrators and all of our staff outdid themselves. And it's great that they are now competing to have the best venue on that special day.
And I'll tell you, President Baker, it's really a leadership of, and help by Ms. Alicia Gillison and the principals. The principals have, I mean, they've got a Bible, I think I can say that, where they share each, I mean, they have like where they got the T-shirts, where they got the hot dogs, where they got the everything, and they share it, and they're just very excited and they own this day for our kids and for our community.
Thank you, Board Member Reyes. Next this is a special event called Moving Public Education Forward. And the young lady in this picture is Diane Ravitch, and most of you probably know her. She is a nationally renowned author, speaker, and public education advocate, and it was an awesome opportunity to hear a hero of mine speak and then actually get to meet her. It was amazing. That's Bill Phillis on the other side of me. You all know Bill. Bill is amazing. He's sort of Ohio's Diane Ravitch. That's how I think of him. Board Member Brown also attended this event. And Board Member Brown, did you have any comments you'd like to share?
I thought it was really an excellent event. It was good to see and hear Bill Phillis and recognize him statewide as a hero in the area of school finance and specifically with respect to equity and adequacy. He's done really good work over the years. And to hear Diane Ravitch, who I've been reading for quite a while, and she's got some really good ideas, was great. But I also got to meet quite a few people from around the state and from around the area who have an interest in public education. And got some good ideas from many of them that I plan to share. And there's a lot of good people, and they're interested, very interested, in making sure that the work on these issues continues. Bill himself pledges he's going to stay at it until he's done. That is, until the issue is solved. And there are a lot of people who are interested in picking up and continuing the work. So I'm happy for that. You know, I met Bill many, many years ago in the early 80s when he first got started with the work, and it's amazing to see how he has persisted over all these years.
Absolutely, and this was co-hosted by a number of groups, including the Ohio Education Association and others, including Public Education Partners. So as we all stand shoulder to shoulder with our swords drawn and march forward in the fight for public education, the room was full of people who are wearing their armor right along with us. So it was amazing. Next, we have, this is the Columbus Council of PTA's Educator of the Year Award Ceremony. Another amazing opportunity to recognize teachers in the district who really, I think of them as sort of freedom fighters on the front line. And so this was just a great opportunity to recognize them. I want to thank the Columbus Council of PTAs for their leadership on this, and Lolita Augustine in the middle there. I know that Board Member Reyes was able to attend this event. And Board Member Reyes, would you like to say anything on this incredibly event?
Yes, the only thing I wanted to say is just they awarded 4 students $1,000. These students have committed to be educators. So I just wanted to make sure that everyone knew who these students were. Alora Dow from East High School, Jana Harris from Mifflin High School, Satya Hodge from Centennial High School, and Brianna Nip from Marion Franklin High School. So these are four young ladies that want to be educators, and one or two of them said they're going to finish and they're going to come back and teach in our district. So this is, you know, we always talk about grow our own and make sure that they can come back and really let our students know, this is where I went, I know what you're going through, and let's learn together. So just very proud of these four young ladies, and obviously, those are all our outstanding teachers of the year. It's just awesome to see them all together.
It was, and I believe Vice President Cole joined us at that as well. Yes, he was. And do you have anything you'd like to share? Any comments?
I thank you, Mr. President. It was an absolute pleasure to be able to attend that event and see how the work in Congress between parents, teachers, and other community leaders not only help propel community and schools, but also our children. So it was an absolute honor to attend.
Thank you. All right. This is Service Above Self with the Rotary. Again, an amazing event, highlighting our amazing students, this one from our high schools, so a great event. Thanks to the Rotary. Okay, very good. One other thing I wanted to mention very briefly is we did have our honors and recognitions ceremony on May 15th. We honored more than 100 students. We also honored staff and community folks, and I just wanted to mention the names of the staff honorees. Sherry Andrus with Special Olympics, who is retiring, as I understand it, regrettably. Deborah Eberhardt, Beechcroft High School. Sarah Thornburg from CAUSE. National Board Certified Teachers, Jada Jackson from South, and Jeremy Stolfuth from Lyndon McKinley. And 2019 Principal Administrator of the Year Awards from OPSI, Diane Campbell from Wedgwood, Shauna McFadden from Oakmont, Nikita Smoot from Georgian Heights, and Linnell Taylor from Avalon. Community honorees were Rock City Church, the Weiler family, Ruth Haddock, Zeta Phi Beta Sorority, Inc., Gamma Zeta chapter. So a great time. Unique opportunity to recognize students and staff and community partners. Board Member Reyes?
Yes, thank you, President Baker. Just two real quick things. I was also able to attend the 100 Black Women's Scholarship dinner, and just wanted to say they awarded $20,000 worth of scholarships. And I mean, literally like right before our eyes, they started with 4,000 and somebody just, the young ladies shared their stories, some very impactful, traumatic experiences had happened to some of our kids. Not all the recipients were from Columbus City Schools, but, and as they spoke, another person got up and put another $1,000 on the table. So they walked out with $5,000. So it was just amazing to just watch and listen and hear our students perform and thrive in spite of what's going on. So there's a lot of hope and a lot of success in our district. And then the second thing I wanted to state is that on June 3rd, from 5:30 to 7:30 at the Lincoln Theater, I will be there to watch our Eastmore High School be one of five schools that are competing for Best Theatrical Play. They had Rent. They'll have several other students that are also in the running for Best Actor, Best Stage, etc. But two students, an actress and an actor, will be selected out of these schools to receive the Jimmy Award. The Jimmy Award provides a week-long intensive coaching and rehearsal in New York with industry professionals, and they will be prepped for a one-night-only talent showcase on Broadway. So potentially one of our kids may be on Broadway for soon. So it might be somebody from EA. So if you want to support June 3rd at the Lincoln Theater, 5:30 to 7:30.
The picture before you is a member of the school board, Jennifer Adair. Yeah, you figured that out. So it's graduation time, and so some were brave enough to share their high school graduation photos. This is right out of the yearbook, as I understand it. And there is Board Member Ragland. Yep, absolutely. Now, who is this? That is our internal auditor, Carolyn Smith. And so I will encourage all of you to submit graduation photos to Mr. Varner. And if we have additional submissions, we'll share them at the next meeting. So it's graduation time. So something very exciting this year we're doing that we've not done in years past is we will be Facebook Living graduations. And so I know it's exciting. It's great. So for those members of families who aren't able to attend, they can watch it. And they can watch it later, too, if they miss it live. So that's an amazing thing that we're doing, and I hope that we will do that every year from now on. That's a really, really big improvement. Thank you very much to the folks in communications for making that happen. Board Member Gibbs.
Bottom of the flyer. Okay. Well, two things. Actually, first, this Thursday, I Know I Can will hold their Founder Scholarship reception. I Know I Can is an amazing community partner, and on Thursday, they will award scholarships to students in the amount of $10,000 per year for the next 4 years. So our students will walk away with a $40,000 scholarship to attend the schools of their choice. And so we are very excited. That will be Thursday at the Lincoln Theater beginning at 6 p.m. We do thank them, and we thank all of our community partners that are giving scholarships to our Columbus City School students. I know on the same evening, I believe the ladies of Alpha Kappa Alpha Sorority, Alpha Sigma Omega chapter will be awarding scholarships throughout the community, so we really do thank them. Then on Tuesday, as a part of her first 100 days mapping our success, the King Arts Complex will be hosting a community conversation and a bit of celebration for Dr. Talisa Dixon. It is held in partnership with leading African American male organizations. And so on this team are the men of Alpha Phi Alpha fraternity, Kappa Alpha Psi fraternity, Omega Psi Phi fraternity, Phi Beta Sigma fraternity, Iota Phi Theta fraternity, and the Franklin County Children's Services SIMBA program. Many times when you associate schools and you see education, sometimes you see a room where men are missing. On Tuesday, May 28th, you will see a room full of men dedicated to education, and because we're going to be at the King Arts Complex and they're hosting us, you will see a very wonderful demonstration of the arts. They are our community gym, and as Board Member Brown said, May is full of arts, and the King Arts Complex is a community gym, and they are keepers of our culture, and they help provide amazing programs and services. We'll be there on Tuesday, and then the very next day, we'll have a graduation there for Columbus Iota. So they are community partners all the way around. This event is open to the public, and it will be Tuesday, May 28th. Doors open at 5:30. Program begins at 6, and we are done at 7:30. So it is a 90-minute program. If board members, if you're interested in attending, please RSVP to Mr. Varner, and please come out and celebrate. And it is a community exchange, so there is Q&A. And so you will hear from the community their questions they have of Dr. Dixon and how we'll move forward. So please come, be prepared to enjoy some of the arts and our amazing students, and hear some questions and answers on how we're moving our district forward, and be a part of an amazing 100 days of mapping our success. That concludes my comment.
Thank you, Board Member Gibbs. Any other announcements or points of pride, Mr. Vice President?
Just one. I wanted to make sure that we gave recognition and honor to our students who have been inducted into the National Honor Society and National Junior Honor Society. Had the opportunity to speak at East High School, and East is having a good year. They've had a pretty good year this year, but they had a wonderful class that they inducted. It seemed like it was over 20 kids that they inducted in that program. I know Columbus North International recently did theirs as well, with a fairly sizable cohort. So I want to acknowledge all of our students throughout the district who are part of character, leadership, service, scholarship, and the teachers that bring these programs to our schools as well. Were it not for them, these youngsters would not have that opportunity. So I want to definitely make sure we acknowledge our teachers. I enjoyed myself tremendously, by the way, at the CEA banquet, as I do every year. But there was one particular teacher that stood out to me. I had to give her the biggest hug. Her name was Miss Smithers. Miss Smithers was my son's kindergarten / pre-K teacher when he was between Wyland Park and the Schoenbaum Center. And she showed him so much love as a student and encouraged him, and he really loved her. So it was just awesome to see how far, you mentioned earlier, Mr. President, how far, or I think it was you, Eric, Mr. Brown, how far folks come. You see them come in their career. To see those folks who have moved on to retirement, to greener pastures, luckily. It's just a blessing to see that, so I was honored by that. I just wanted to make sure we acknowledge our retirees and, more importantly, our students.
Absolutely. Okay, if there's nothing else, I think because this is our last school board meeting before graduations begin, this was a great opportunity to recognize students and teachers and administrators and other staff for all that they do throughout the year. So let me ask this. If you are a teacher or administrator, or if you work in any way for Columbus City Schools, can you please stand so that the Board of Education can recognize you with a round of applause? Thank you so much for everything that you do all year long to help to make our students successful. We appreciate it. We are proud of the good work that you do. Thank you so very much. Is there anything else, colleagues? Oh, I will now call for a motion from the Vice President.
Thank you, Mr. President. It is recommended that the Board of Education recess into executive session per Section 121.22 G1 Ohio Revised Code to consider the employment or compensation of public employees, and Section 121.22 G4 to prepare for, conduct, or review negotiations or bargaining sessions with public employees concerning their compensation or other terms and conditions of their employment.
Second.
Vice President Cole? Yes. Ms. Gibbs?
Yes.
Mr. Ragland?
Yes.
Ms. Reyes?
Yes.
Ms. Adair?
Yes.
President Baker? Mr. Brown? Motion carried.
Thank you, Mr. Treasurer. The board will now recess into executive session. We will adjourn from those chambers without returning to these. Thank you. Have a good evening. Have a good summer.